welcome back to the Maria Sanchez Show. We're live. It's Wednesday, November 17th. Thanks so much for joining us. We have Christy Weir coming in next to speak with us about the Father Sarah Cross, and that's an issue that's going on in the city of Ventura. If you have something that you'd like us to promote, get behind, investigate, share the light of day on it, please contact us. On the website, you'll see there's an icon up there that says contact us. That's how we're getting some of our information. Folks are coming ahead. If you are also involved with the 501c3, the priority of this program is to feature one a day because there are over 2,000 in the county. They all have a need, and we want to help expose them as well. Now we're meeting with Scott. This would be Marketing 104.
Marketing 104. That's right, exactly. So we're moving forward.
Yes.
Eventually, we're going to get to the 200 level.
Perfect. That'll be graduate level.
Yeah, I don't have as many as there are nonprofits in the community, but we're good to go. And actually, some of this advice would be good for nonprofits. So some of the things we're going to talk about, I think, would be important. And what I was hoping to talk to you about today was public relations. And public relations is, well, in the simplest terms, I think it's the most underutilized of all the marketing tools. And part of the reason for that is because I think it's the least understood and it's the most difficult to control. And what I mean by that is if you buy an ad in the newspaper, you can pick the day, you can pick the page, you can pick the size, the color, and you know exactly what it's going to say. You have complete control. Public relations is a little bit different. Public relations, you have to work with editors and managing editors and a variety of different people to promote your ideas, to promote your stories or your press releases or whatnot, and you go out and you do that. I'm finding in the last couple of years that public relations is getting more attention than it's ever gotten in the past. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. And we'll talk about those reasons. But what I want to do is let people know the tremendous value to public relations relative to other forms of marketing is that it gives a third-party endorsement. If the Ventura County Star, for example, runs an article that says the Maria Sanchez Show is a great thing, great use of your time, great way to keep up on the community, and you got to watch KADY TV, and boom, 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 and I read that in an article in the Ventura County Star, that enters my mind through one route. If I see an ad from KADY TV with a picture of Maria saying, we're doing all this stuff, I may still look at it, but there's an extra filter on there because I know that Maria's promoting herself.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're dishonest or that the ad isn't, but there's a filter that goes through an ad that doesn't go through public relations. So you get that third-party endorsement in what's being said, which lends some validity and credibility to it. So it's a neat thing to do. And
it's interesting that you call it an endorsement, though, because the truth is they're just repeating the facts as they were presented it, unless they sign a reporter to do some investigation.
But even if they just repeat the facts as they're presented to them, there is an assumption that the facts are true.
Okay.
Because it doesn't say as presented by KADY TV. You go to the business section and there's a release, and that release says, boy, KADY TV is changing the rules of local television and their viewership has tripled in the first 6 weeks and all this is happening. And it doesn't say, and this release came from Bob Allen, so take it with a grain of salt. It just says it as a fact. And so that's how we read it. That's how we look at it as readers. The other thing that's changing dramatically, and we've talked about this a little bit, is I believe there's been a paradigm shift in business in the last 2 years. You and I have been through, I'm much older than you, but we've been through a couple of recessions. And historically, the recessions we've been through have a pattern, which is we hit a down cycle for whatever reason. And we go through a few months that are tough, so everybody says, we'll cut back the budget, a little less travel, a little less charity, a little less marketing. We'll cut a couple of weak employees. I've been looking for a reason to get rid of Bill anyway, and off we go. The economy picks back up, generally 8 to 12 months later. Budgets go right back up. You fill in the blank spots on your staff, and life goes on. It's not happening this time. People are treating their businesses differently, and so they're saying, you know what, I don't know that I necessarily have to replace Bill. I think we can continue to absorb that work in-house and give ourselves a little more flexibility, a little less, set costs, and so we're doing things differently. What's happening in marketing is historically people have looked at advertising as an expense. We spend this much on advertising. We spend this much on public relations. Now, companies are saying, we're not going to spend money on marketing. We're going to invest money in marketing, and if we can get a return on that investment, then we'll continue to do that. If we don't get a return on that investment, we're going to stop. I had a meeting yesterday with a president of a large company. It's a $3.5 billion company. And we were reviewing the advertising that we've been doing. And this is the first time he's done this, but we had a discussion about radio, about print, and about billboards. Those are the three of the main things we're doing. And the first thing he said is, what kind of return am I getting on my investment in those areas? Those are questions I was never asked 2 or 3 years ago.
And how do you gauge that, though?
Well, there's a number of different ways to do it, and some of it's a little bit, it's not as concrete as we would like. It's not like you buy a stock for $1, it goes up 10%, I got a 10% return on my investment.
Right.
But, forgive me, but what you can do is you can measure the number of calls that come in, you can set up a good tracking system and say how many of those calls converted to sales meetings, how many of those sales meetings converted to sales. You can follow those things through. So there are ways to do it where you can at least take a look at it and start to get an idea. So if you're running, let's say, ads in newspapers and you're getting 10 hits per 100,000 circulation in 3 newspapers, and you go to a 4th newspaper and you get 3 hits per 100,000, you're going to say it's not as good. Mm-hmm. It's not black and white as you'd like, because those 3 might all convert to sales and you wouldn't know that. But at least it gives you something to measure. And what people are looking for now is, give me something. Put down something on paper that I can look at and say, what did I get for this? I don't just want to know that, a lot of people know my name now. People are saying, I want phone calls. I want sales meetings. I want sales. I need revenue. I'm responsible now to make sure this happens. So public relations becomes a great tool for that. The other thing that's happened is, and you know this from your media experience, is in almost all forms of media, they've been cutting reporters, cutting everybody, right? So now, more than any point in the 25 years I've been in the business, magazines and newspapers and even radio people are begging for content. Because let's, again, go back to the Ventura County Star. You'd have to ask Joe Howery how many reporters they have today compared to 5 years ago, but it's a lot less.
Right.
Well, there's more people, there's more activity, there's more things going on, but that's a budgetary decision. So now suddenly...
And the paper's a lot thinner.
Paper is a lot thinner, but they would rather they still want some good information in there, so they're more open to columns that are submitted by guest columnists. They're more open to those kinds of things. Trade publications, for example, we have a lot of business-to-business clients, and so they're working in the trade areas. Well, trade magazines are begging for articles from experts, from engineers and whatnot. So you help your clients write those, and it's a delicate balance because it needs to be informative. It needs to be an article and not an ad on your company, but you want to insert just enough in that balance so people know where to find you if they want to. Or at the end of the article, they go, ooh, Maria's pretty smart. She knows a lot about this. I'd like to contact her. And then you do that. So we're finding that publications more than any time in their history are open to the idea of guest articles, guest op-eds, press releases, whatever it might be.
And in case folks didn't get a chance to catch us last week, which we invite you to go back to the archives about that, you made a distinction between marketing and public relations, and a lot of people might not know that
Between
difference.
Advertising and public relations.
Okay.
They both fall under the marketing umbrella.
Okay.
But the very simplest way to put it is this. If you have to write a check in order to guarantee placement, which would be an ad or a direct mail piece or a billboard or a radio spot, that's advertising. Mm-hmm. If you are offering it to media outlets and hoping that they run it, that would be public relations. Okay. So if the editor decides, it's public relations. If the advertising sales guy gets a commission, it's advertising. And that's kind of the simplest way to do it.
And I don't know if we have enough time, but
1 minute.
In terms of PR and the cost involved with the investment and that versus advertising?
It is, in my view, generally far less expensive than traditional advertising. Mm-hmm. It's really the most economical, the highest return on investment. It can't be done exclusively. You have to have other components to your marketing campaign in order to be successful. But to have a marketing campaign and not do public relations is a huge mistake.
Okay. That is Scott Harris, Mustang Marketing, and that was Marketing 104. You're watching the Maria Sanchez Show right here on KADYTV.com. We'll be right back.